Good evening. Tonight we're doing some more solo stream or solo challenge stream. Let me just see the chat. Pokeshack says, Ifrit, why do I hear boss music? The Heart of Sabik, isn't the Warrior of Lights theme, like, isn't that more considered Maker's Ruin? And there's Coco. And Matthew says Ifrit should be a good warm-up. I think so too. And hey, Longstop. I think Ifrit is going to be really easy. There's actually something that I have prepared here that I would like your guys' opinion on. You might be able to see that my camera has like this little grainy effect because it's a little bit dark. Slightly dark in my room, despite having like 2 lamps and like 3 monitors blaring lights at me. What I want to know is this better? Like, is this better? Or is this better? Is this too bright? Because now I think like the graininess is gone. Did you like it better before? Or is this better? It's better. Okay, well then we do that. I brought an extra lamp into the room specifically for this. As Nikolai last stream said, oh, the light, that's an easy fix. He's right. And he knows that I have more lamps, so that's on me. Now, it would have been even better if it had been white light. Pokeshack says I prefer before. Anyone else have an opinion? Maybe lift the light a bit above you? I can't. It's like a... Like, it's as high as it's going to get. I can move it further away. Let me see what happens if I move it away a bit. How's that? Like it's like a tall light. Like it's like the one that it's like that one back there. So it's making your forehead shine like the sun. Yeah. The thing is, I could also try to move it like here. Does that help? I think it's just a good idea to get that. Like, if I have a solution, then might as well implement it immediately, right? Let's try this. Then can mess around more with it later on. Thank you for your input. Pokeshack says I don't remember what is the theme you say. It's in the Praetorium run. Torn from the Heavens is the annoying one that causes you to receive random claims on your videos. Maker's Ruin is the one that also plays in 012 when in that particular fight. So it is considered that it's like the player's theme. Let's see. Irika says, I managed to tear myself away from Shadowbringers long enough to drop by and say hi. Well, I'm glad to see you. I hope this is fine. I think it's better because I felt like the graininess of the camera wasn't optimal. Like that isn't good. Matthew says, 012 is Heartless. Oh no, I know. The thing is that Heartless sounds very similar, I believe. Do I have that one? So this is different. This part is different. But it takes a moment to get started. But very similar to Maker's Ruin, it's like the leitmotif starts here. Like that's, as far as I remember, Maker's Ruin, or at least like it plays the same style. I believe that's called a leitmotif. So that's what I mean. Like, in encounters that are supposed to be playing your theme, it's usually this one that plays. Like, the Maker's Ruin is some part of it. But you're right, Matthew. And Matthew said... Oh, wait. Matthew also said, I tried a few of the upcoming instances. Will be interested to see how you do. And Bookjack said, maybe you're saying the heart is the theme of the weapon, and the other one is the theme of the player, and the sound in Praetorium in the final fight. Yeah, it's something like that. Irika speedrunning Final Fantasy XIV. Right. So, the first thing we're doing is, we're silencing that, even though it shouldn't matter, is we're going to be doing Bowl of Embers, so Ifrit, and when we've done that, we will do 1000 Maws of Totarak, then Haukke Manor, Brayflox Longstop, and then I already know the answer is you can't, but I still want to see it, so we're going to attempt the naval, just to see how bad it is, like how impossible it is. And when we're done with that, we will try Sunken Temple of Qarn, depending on how much time we have left of the stream. That's the general plan of the stream. I think that's all we'll be able to do. Yeah, last stream we did some dungeons as Scholar and some dungeons as Gunbreaker, and we're going to continue as Gunbreaker because that went a little bit faster, which I think is more interesting for a stream. I sort of feel like I proved that Scholar can solo dungeons, which implies that you don't need to be a tank to solo a dungeon, which I think is like an important thing to point out early in like a solo challenge. We don't have to pick Gunbreaker. The reason we're picking Gunbreaker is because at this level, it is actually the only viable tank for soloing, because it's the only tank that has any self-healing. If Gunbreaker's Brutal Shell didn't heal, then Gunbreaker wouldn't have been viable. Popejack says, I lost the last stream. Well, fortunately, I keep all of the streams in VODs, and I have specifically recently made a new playlist of solo streams, which includes the Can I Solo That series that came months ago, where we did a lot more unstructured stuff. Longstop says, I finished Shadowbringers and all the side content in 1.5 weeks. That's pretty good. Right, Bowl of Embers. And we have unrestricted, level sync, minimum item level, silence echo. Join party in progress is optional. That's not going. That's only not going to help. And we go in. So last stream we discovered that we could easily solo a dungeon while not wearing pants, boots, or gloves. So we're going to start from that point. If Ifrit beats us, then we're going to add equipment again. But for now, I've brought potions so that we can compensate if our self-healing isn't strong enough to keep up. The key thing that is dangerous about Ifrit is going to be the nail. Does it have like some sort of DPS check that I've never seen before that we can't meet? Doubt it. But that would be the key thing that might stop us in our tracks. But that is the general idea. I don't think Ifrit himself has anything. I don't think he's strong enough that we will even need to use potions. Even without pants. Stun him. Yeah, I guess we can do that. You know, I randomly happened upon the Ifrit, I believe it was the hard tactics, might have been the extreme tactics. And it specifically denoted that you could skip a certain mechanic consistently with stuns. Okay, we are going to need to use potions, it seems. And that was how I came upon the simple fact that Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn didn't come out the box with diminishing returns. I want to be clear that Final Fantasy XIV, specifically A Realm Reborn, according to like the developers themselves, took a lot of inspiration from World of Warcraft. And when they played World of Warcraft had already gone through the motions of figuring out that diminishing returns is a necessity. So it's just pretty funny that A Realm Reborn didn't come packaged with it. And if you're not sure what diminishing returns means, it means that if you use crowd control like a stun on something, and then you do it again shortly after, then the duration will be significantly shorter to make it more fair. And this affects, for example, stuns and sleeps. But that wasn't the case at the beginning, which supposedly means that if you could bring, you know, 5 tanks nowadays, you could perma-stun a boss if you want to. Hey, Dr. Ryan. Konbanwa. Good evening to you too. I don't speak anime. Well, you could learn it. Uh-oh. I think we didn't make it. Apparently we didn't make it. But it did 1100 damage. Wait, how much health did I have? Huh. We didn't make the DPS check. Coco says, do you really think I could learn it? Of course I do. Hey, Vento. I don't know if more gear would change that. Maybe I was a bit slow to switch to the nail. Did any of you guys notice? I think we might be able to do it if I intentionally hold back and keep No Mercy and Danger Zone for that. And I don't think we need to use our defensive cooldown, so in case we don't make it, I can just use Rampart and Camouflage and maybe we'll survive. Let's try again. No changes. Maybe stay in the center? Well, the problem is that the boss regularly knockbacks you, so we don't want to stay somewhere without the wall against our backs. So I want to just be really fast to switch to the nail. Like, I need to be really careful with switching to it quickly. Which, of course, implies that we're going to be spending a lot longer in this first phase, because based on how long it took before the nail appeared, it's probably health based. Just hit him harder. No, we can't kill Ifrit. He will get really mad if we ignore the nail. Yeah, I don't think we need more gear for this, so that's why we're not changing the setup. I have plenty of potions, which greatly helps us with survival. Okay, so I think he summoned the nail after like 50%, so I think I can use Danger Zone one more time, no problem. Pokejack says, with 4 players you can kill Ifrit without the nail, but I don't think you can right now. I'm pretty sure that you can only kill Ifrit with 4 players while ignoring the nail if everyone is bringing it. Like, if anyone in your group is actually a genuine Sprout, then I think it becomes very, very inconsistent. That's the thing. That's like in Labyrinth of the Ancients, where people say you can just ignore the second flare and rush down the boss. That only works if everyone is doing it and everyone is bringing it. Like if anyone isn't like geared to do it, and anyone like hesitates, then it's not going to work. There it is. Oh boy, that's really annoying. That was close. Just gonna use a potion just to be sure. I think we got it. Oh man. I don't know how long you have to kill the nail, but it did not feel like I had a lot of time. It felt like Ifrit was starting to like look at me like, is he going to do it, or do you have this? Keyboard mashing. Yeah, I agree, Vento. I don't think there's anything else that can risk killing us, so now we can just go to town. I wonder if any other job would have an easier time with this. I'm pretty sure any DPS job would be incapable of doing this, even if they kited Ifrit and used like an incredible amount of potions. I still don't think it would work. Because then they wouldn't be able to get uptime on the nail. Maybe Summoner. You would have Topaz. Dr. Ryan says, I did 3 Ifrit runs yesterday because it was the eve before reset, but no luck reading on healer gear. Why didn't you go in as a healer? Is there a specific reason why you didn't just queue as a healer? Vento says, what about a ranged DPS? They could probably kite while keeping uptime. That's a good point. Maybe they could do it. The question, it boils down to whether they would be able to survive Ifrit, because the thing is with soloing mobs is that the mobs will typically eventually, like, because we have to run in a circle, Ifrit is bound to catch up to us. And what's going to happen when Ifrit reaches us is he's going to punch us, which is going to hurt, and then he will promptly use his fire breath that he has probably had queued up for like 20 seconds beforehand, and that fire breath hits a tank for like 250. Felt like something like that. 200, 250, I think. Maybe I can check the combat log. It felt like it was that amount. Maybe it was just 130. Hey, Brown Eyes. How are you doing? Anyway, my point is that even if you try to solo it with a ranged physical, the key thing is, can you survive, like, Ifrit walking up to you and doing that 1-2 punch? If you can, then you're home free. Because then you just need a lot of potions. I think... Let me just see, what would you have at level 20? Do you have Inavant? Nope. I think the strongest by far at level 20 would be Dancer then. I think so. I mean, we could just go in and test it right now, honestly. I'm not going to do it without gear though, but I'm going to test it just for the theory. I don't think it can be done. I'm not going to give it multiple tries. I just want to see if it can be done. Hey Mihoels, how are you doing? Right. So the game plan is we attack Ifrit and then we just run in circles for the entire encounter. Same rule with the pants. No, we're only if we are strong enough, we will not bring pants. And I'm pretty confident Dancer isn't strong enough to do it without pants. So whenever we're missing HP... Oh boy! 160! I should have kept second wind for longer. Yeah, that's what I was concerned about, is that he will eventually run up to you and do it twice. Oh, there it is. It's okay, Dancing Queen. I don't think it can. I don't think I can do it, at least. I would love to hear if any of you guys discover that it can be done. Then I would love to hear about it. But I don't think it would be very entertaining to watch me try to make that magic happen. If you can stun, you can bind. I don't think that bosses are bindable. Okay, that's the last test, but then we're moving on. Okay, I'm going to test: can you slow Ifrit and can you stun Ifrit? Can you crowd control Ifrit? So we're going to test leg graze, immune, foot graze, immune. Okay, then nope. Just take me, Ifrit. It's worth the test. If you could slow Ifrit, then this would be extremely, like, way more feasible. Because the key problem is that as we have no sustained healing whatsoever, like none, we have to stall to be able to use potions. Hey Tracy, how are you doing? And like Gunbreaker can get much further because, well, they have healing. But because if you play something like Dancer, then you need, like, you're relying on those 200 HP from the potion. And I could have used high potions, but they would actually have done the same because you need to have at least 500 HP for the high potion to start to get better. And then also tanks have the level, they have the tank mastery, so they take 20% less damage. They also have, oh, I don't know, like 90% more defense. So that also matters. Next up is 1,000 Maws of Totarak. And we're going to do it without pants, and now without gloves and without boots. We want to see how far we can get without some gear pieces. It's going to be a lot more interesting once we get to Haukke Manor and Brayflox Longstop, because then there's a lot more options. Poison. What about the poison? The mini bosses have poison, that's true. I did some planning before the stream, and my expectation is if we can't solo the dungeon with Gunbreaker, fully geared, namely, so if we reach the point where we put on our pants, then, and still can't beat something, then something like 1000 Maws of Totarak might be more doable by a healer, namely Scholar, because the healing, both the healing and having Isuna to remove poisons will be massive. Also, I think it might be beneficial to run up to these saplings, because then they waste time channeling a telegraph that we can just sidestep instead of attacking. That's good to know. I'm going to stun the middle one that we're currently attacking anyway, because then we have the opportunity to fully stun another one when it's dead. These Selmites are really... Well, actually the mobs in general are getting really strong now. Isn't that ironic? We're more in danger from 3 random insects in a dungeon than Ifrit. Coco says, I'm so stunning that the ads all get stunned when I walk past them. Now that would be neat. I think we are going to reach a point in this dungeon where we might need to put on at least our gloves. We have already reached a point where every single fight requires me to almost use potions on cooldown. And we might actually, I think it might be healthy to kite mobs a little bit, so that they waste more time. Actually, I've also experienced that even just running around mobs sometimes slow them a little bit, because they will still spend a little bit of time turning. So we're going to be speeding around the place to be able to do this. And also, just for the record, if some of you are thinking, nah, and then he's just using potions, I think we would be forced to use potions eventually anyway. I think that is bound to happen whether we're using paints or not. So it's better to just not exclude that as an option. Is that 4 mobs? Oh boy. Oh boy. And the sapling, yeah. Now, the good news here is that because we killed just one of the mobs, we will be able to, like, if we wipe here, we can just go and kill the rest of them second go. Oh boy. I'm really trying to mess with the sapling as much as I can. Whew! Got him! Coco says, I just noticed the candy canes on your lawn. Yeah, HK came by the other day and gave them to me, so I decided that was a great match for the house. This is more hard than Endwalker. Well, we're certainly already using some tricks that you wouldn't need in most Endwalker dungeons. I was just about to say, I think I'm going to wait for my cooldowns, and then the game said no. Oh, that's hitting really hard. Oh, the poison isn't affected by Asuna, so that wouldn't actually help us. That is an important thing to keep in mind if you were to try this dungeon with a healer. It's hitting really hard. Just the permanent poison. This is coming down to the wire. I don't have any more cooldowns. Can you get slowed? Yes, you can. Excellent. We may have to slow it, or have to attempt to kite it. It's actually a good thing when it wastes time on applying poisons. I think we're going down. Yeah. Wow. I don't think we could survive many more seconds than that. That is the second boss has like a slow debuff as well, I think. So that's going to be even worse. So I think that is where we're going to meet our limit. That does make the boss a lot more interesting when suddenly you don't just steamroll it like this. Those poisons can be dispelled or Isunad. That helps a lot. Well, it would. There are those antidotes. Do they share cooldown with potions? I wonder if you can use antidotes on non-removable poisons. Would that work? You're the pink professor. Fair point. I'm the one that's supposed to know that. And I didn't bring any antidotes. Prison pudding! Is that what they serve in prison? Or is that what appears in prison? The stone is interruptible. Ah! It worked! Even though it looked like it managed to finish the cast, it still worked. Excellent. Oh boy. That's 4 mobs again. So, I think the Warden's whip turned out to be like somewhat weak. Like they didn't hit that hard and they spent a lot of time applying poisons that didn't hurt that much. So I think we want to kill the Prisoner's Delight and then we want to try to deal with the sapling. Because then we can more easily kite the other ads. But while we're dealing with the Prisoner's Delight, we want to be as annoying as possible for the sapling. Which ultimately means that we're going to probably get hit a lot by the other enemies. But the trick still is that if we can approach a pack and kill one enemy in the pack, then it is possible for us to progress. Because the next time we approach the pack, it's going to be slightly weaker. Which is still a viable solution at the very least. Oh boy. No! Pokeshak says, I think it is better to begin with the slow with 4 enemies. Well, the slow is actually weaker than Rampart. So the optimal one is to use Rampart. So as far as I know, the way that arm's length works is that it increases the time between attacks for the enemies by 20%. That means that if an attack took 1 second before, then it takes 1.2 seconds now. Or more easy to deal with maybe. If something takes 5 seconds, then with the slow it takes 6 seconds. Which is closer to reducing the damage by 1/6. Which is less than 20% damage reduction. That's why I believe that it is. It's probably better to use Rampart first. Now the thing is, I don't remember if I actually used Rampart at the start of the previous attempt. Now that's an entirely different issue altogether. But of the tools we have access to, arm's length is probably the second strongest. So if we're going to segment out our defensive cooldowns to get as much of them spread out as possible, then arm's length second is probably best. Like, if we're approaching a fight and we're missing cooldowns, the primary reason is either I can't be bothered to wait, or I genuinely believe we don't need it. In contrast to a dungeon run, like a normal dungeon run, where you just pull, so you just have to meter out your cooldowns so you're not pulling without anything because you spent everything on the previous pull. The two of those are very easy, so I think the saplings might be possibly the biggest issue. Maybe the prisoners' delights are also very strong. Let me just do this. And then we're going to stun them in that order. Which itself is like a 33% damage reduction at the start here. Because we're removing a third of the enemies, briefly. Ugh. They have OGCD attacks and those bumps. That's a little scary. I marked them in a certain order because I was wondering if I would be allowed to like stun them while something else was already like wasn't dead yet, but it doesn't appear to be the case. I haven't played Dark Souls 1. The Mushroom Men, are they just really strong? That looks like a side path that no longer exists. Oh yeah, actually, that reminds me. If we end up in a situation where we need a full gear set and it's still not enough, we could actually also eat buff food to like push even further. Like that will give us 10% more HP. Yeah, I agree, Matthew. I understand why some players might have found the Totarak maze annoying, because it ultimately what it meant is that when you had new players, there was a very high chance that you would waste time going down the optional paths that didn't contain anything. But at the same time, I felt like that was like part of the experience. That you did that. The thing is that after they reworked how experience works in dungeons, the side paths changed from being optional to being pointless. Like in the old days, for those players that have never experienced this, the mobs throughout a dungeon gave experience. Which meant that if everyone in your party was like of a reasonable level to do the dungeon, then killing as many mobs as possible in the dungeon was time effective. Like killing everything was better experience than just rushing to the end, if you were all at like a reasonable level to do the dungeon so that the XP was decent. But when they reworked it so that all the experience is stored in the bosses, specifically to work as a deterrent from bothering to kill all the optional mobs in a dungeon, then also all of the optional mobs in a dungeon went from being optional to being pointless. Like, they were actually just in the way now. Which we could argue is even worse. Right, as soon as Rampart ends, I'm going to stun it. But the guild though, oh yeah, these 40 guild that I'm getting for every mob. That's huge. Come on, hit me again. Please hit me again. I got finessed by the mob. It waited with attacking so that my arm's length window missed. Oh boy. Oh no. This is too much. Oh boy. That is too much. Let me put on gloves. Let's see how big of a difference it makes, alright? I sort of expected this. I did say that the second boss is even harder, and the first boss already pushed us to the brink. But this is expected. Eventually we're going to hit a boss where we can't do it without pants. But it's interesting to see how far we can go. Part of the reason why we're getting really weak now is also because it's been quite a while since we got anything at all. Like, the reason why I said that it's going to be more interesting when we get to Haukke Manor and Brayflox is because then we get our step 3 combos, which actually also opens up other job options that weren't viable before. Which is why I did some preparation for this stream specifically, to see what big of a how big of a difference it is. And it's pretty huge. At some points, you need pants. That is an important lesson in life. Sometimes you're going to need pants. Matthew says, second boss is definitely possible in full gear. That's good to know. The thing is that part of the effect of having, like, missing a gear piece or two is that it suddenly heavily diminishes how much damage reduction you have. Like, that's the key thing that really hurts, is that the mob is going to hit harder. Now, I'm not keeping enough track of how much damage the boss is doing to know exactly how big of a difference it's making. But in retrospect, I should have been doing this more earlier in the fight. Just running away like this seems like the boss is like spending quite a while just like sort of pondering its life decisions, which greatly helps with the damage intake. And it doesn't actually hurt my damage that much. It slows my auto attacks a little bit, but just you can see how much more health I suddenly have to work with. It really helps. But it does look really awkward. It's not as bad when we were kiting the demon bosses in what's the dungeon called? The one with the tentacly boy at the end. What's it called? The second dungeon? Suddenly the name is escaping me. At some point you need pants. Well, we don't need gloves for two of these. the final boss of the second dungeon is that one of those like mind flayer looking monsters. I can't remember what the dungeon is called. Yeah, Totarak. On an unrelated note, the fact that you can kill some mobs doing this gives me hope that there is a possible chance that a job like Dragoon might actually be capable of soloing a dungeon by just using Piercing Talon. Which would be really funny. That's also why I'm willing to say that without testing, I'm willing to say that there's a possibility that any job could solo something like Sastasha. Who was it that said that they had soloed Sastasha with like just synced as a black mage with using Scathe? Like that is a really good example. That means that any job that has a ranged attack with no cast time can probably do it. Hey Junebug, how goes the soloing? It's going well. We soloed Ifrit, and and now we're soloing 1000 Maws of Totarak. We also did some experimenting in Ifrit by seeing if it was a possibility that we could solo with a ranged physical job. It didn't seem very feasible. It might require some luck, is what I'm thinking. But we're still not wearing pants. So I would say it's going pretty well. Yeah, exactly, the Incinerate hits really hard, and the fact that it has some range also really causes problems if you try to kite Ifrit. It's just way easier with a tank and just standing your ground and taking it. And the thing is, I don't think a healer job like Scholar is able to meet the DPS check on the nail. And that sort of means that even Scholar has to step down on that one. A lightning sprite. This is the triple mage composition. Rest of the dungeon is pretty easy. The problem here is that it's 3 ranged mobs, so we're just going to eat it, and we just have to deem who is going to hit the hardest and who is the squishiest, and just rush that one, because I know we can beat 2 prison puddings. Oh, that was a very bad combination. Missed the interrupt. Does arm's length work at all on magic? Don't think it does. I have to land the next interrupt. On that guy. I really hope that doesn't mean it starts auto-attacking me. It didn't. I think I'm going to like eventually need to buy more potions if we don't get to the dungeons where the better potions gets better soon. The better potions get better. Nice one. It is funny with interject, because you can interrupt something after it's supposedly already finished casting. Oh no. Yeah, we need to get rid of the Prisoner's Delights. And even the insects hit really hard with the Proboscis move. So this strategy doesn't work very well because all of the enemies have an OGCD that they're just queuing up when I'm getting in close for my attack. Like so. It still helps to kite them, it makes them have less uptime, but it just means that when I get in close, they hit way harder. And the problem is, again, that because it's physical damage, most of the damage that they do, well, actually, because it's not unique damage, me not wearing like half of my gear set means that I have incredibly low armor compared to what you'd normally have. We can actually check that after this pull. Because we have our scaled down stats over here. So you can see if I put on the gloves and the pants and the boots, I suddenly have like 150% more defense, which matters a lot. Like, you will be surprised. Like, I think that is more so the reason why it was easier to do with Gunbreaker than Scholar compared to to the extra HP that Gunbreaker has. Oh yeah, also something random that I happened upon, fun fact, that I noticed when I was doing some research before the stream. Apparently Warrior has like 3% more HP than the other tanks. Like something like that, like around 3%. For no particular reason. Like just enough that you see it and go, oh, that's weird. I think I know the reason. Before Shadowbringers, back when tanks had like unique tank stances and like damage stances, the way that they worked was slightly different. If I remember correctly, as I recall, Dark Knight didn't have a damage stance, so their tank stance was, you know, it reduced their damage done, and then not being in the tank stance was equal to getting a DPS boost by not doing less damage. Paladin's tank stance reduced damage taken, Dark Knight's did too, but Paladin's damage stance increased your auto attack damage, in addition to not reducing your damage done. Warrior's tank stance, if I remember correctly, didn't actually reduce the damage you took. Thrill of Battle, one of your tank cooldowns as a warrior, increases your health and increases your healing received. Defiance basically did that. So instead of reducing the damage you take by 20%, it just went, oh, you have 20% more health and take 20% more healing, which is equivalent to around 16.7 damage reduction. Which means that reasonably all warrior tanks had more health than the other tanks. And I think maybe that's like a relic of that warrior is the health tank, the health blob tank. Ow. You know, this is not helping you. So far you're weaker than the other bosses. Graphius. Is there a point to attacking the tail? If you attack and kill the tail, the boss gets stunned for a while and also gets a significant damage vulnerability debuff, which makes it so that it takes more damage. So it compensates for you investing time in killing the tail. Whether it is actually worth doing? I don't know. I always kill the tail when I'm here. Especially if I can just AoE it. Because if you can AoE it, it's almost free. Like, you're still hitting the boss. So that's my take on it. I would attack it. I don't know if it's worth it when you're solo, because the debuff isn't permanent as far as I know. So it boils down to whether you can actually like profit off of the damage debuff in time before it runs out, or if the stun helps you. I think killing the tail also prevents the boss from doing something. It's typically casting something specific when the tail becomes attackable, if I remember correctly, or spamming an action or something like that. So removing that from the playing field might also be valuable, because the fight, you know, like this. Again, Longstop. And Coco says, but you can burn the boss down so fast. That's true. It depends on the group whether it is worth it at all to kill it. We can see here that it didn't take me that much to kill the tail. And now I have 1 minute where I'm doing more damage. Longstop says, what have I missed? I can't... It depends on... Did you miss the start of 1000 Maws of Totarak? If you left before the dungeon, then we found out that the first boss really pushed us to the limit. To the point that the second boss required us to... Now, you might need to sit down for this. Put on gloves. You left during Ifrit. Okay, well, we also discovered during the Ifrit fight that... we discovered that we can solo Ifrit with Gunbreaker. You just need to be good about saving your cooldowns for the nail, so that you can maximize your damage where it really matters. And then we discovered that it might, like a very small might, be possible, maybe, to solo with a ranged physical job like Dancer, but I highly doubt it, because I think it requires a lot of luck. Maybe you can when it's not minimum item level. That might also make a difference. And then we went into 1000 Maws of Totarak. The first boss turned out to be manageable. The second boss, we needed to put on gloves, because there were ads, in addition to the boss pushing us to the limit. And this is the first try on the final boss, which, well, it's turning out to be quite a long fight, but it's not that hard. It's like a lot of the power budget of this boss was invested in all of its mechanics that can easily be dodged or dealt with. So its auto attacks are kind of weak to compensate, which made it very easy. 39 minutes. Oh, and there was also a pack of 4 mobs where we died, but we managed to kill one of the mobs before we died, which meant we could go back in without changing anything. But that was 1000 Maws of Totarak. Which means that next up is Haukke Manor. Now, let me just go over the interesting changes this means in our options. The first one is Gunbreaker's healing is actually not that great now, because we get 200 cure potency every 3rd global cooldown instead of every 2nd, or we sacrifice a huge amount of our DPS by doing it every second. But Dark Knight actually receives 300 cure potency every 3 GCDs, which means that we have to, in here we can choose between sacrificing having Danger Zone and No Mercy to just have the Soul Eater combo, which heals slightly more, which means that we're healing for the same as we did before, but we're introducing a higher minimum DPS, while completely removing any sort of damage increase because we will not have Flood of Darkness. We just have our 1-2-3 combo, nothing else. Another option that also becomes available is Warrior, and because of the toolkit of the Warrior at this level, Storm's Path hits harder than both Soul Eater and Solid Barrel, which means that Warrior has the strongest 1-2-3 combo, but it heals for only 250 potency, instead of 300, so it's slightly weaker there. But Berserk also is a huge damage boost for 3 GCDs, so if we're running into a fight, like, okay, we just need to have to kill one mob, and then we can go in again, then Warrior is by far the strongest contestant to do that. Warrior might be the most capable job of just running up and just nuking one mob and moving on, if that's what we need. And yeah, that is a good point, Matthew. Both Warrior and Dark Knight do not have Camouflage. Now, the thing is that Camouflage is, I think it's like averaging like 12, maybe 13, maybe 15 damage reduction, I think. 15%? Maybe it's 17. Somewhere around there, which does matter a lot. The key thing is if Dark Knight's healing, or Warrior's healing for that matter, because Warrior's healing is also better than than Gunbreaker's, while maximizing your damage, if either of those tanks can do better than Camouflage, then that matters, and I don't know what's better. So that's why I wanted to highlight this. The thing with these 3 jobs is that Dark Knight has slightly more average damage while maximizing its healing than Gunbreaker has. But it has no cooldowns for damage, so its maximum damage potential is the same as its minimum. Gunbreaker has the capacity to sacrifice damage to like pull its healing capacity up to meet Dark Knight and beat Warrior. And Warrior has the ability to do the most damage, and also it has like 3% more health than the other 2 tanks for some reason. 2 or 3%. It's pretty funny. Toto-Rak says, where is your house located? My house is... Plot 36, Ward 29. And Longstop says, as a warrior main, I say Dark Knight. We can do Dark Knight. We could also do Warrior. Now, the thing is that at level 32, which is Brayflox Longstop, both Warrior and Dark Knight get... well, Warrior doesn't get that much better because it just gets the weak Thrill of Battle with no HP recovery bonus. But Dark Knight gets Flood of Darkness. So Dark Knight is going to be way better at level 32. So we could also go Warrior now and then Dark Knight and Brayflox. At least we shouldn't go Gunbreaker again. That's a little boring. How about we vote about it? Then you get to choose. also just waiting a bit because I get the impression that Toto-Rak is coming over here maybe. Longstop says, what level is Haukke Manor? It is level 28. If you do it in like under normal circumstances, you will typically get synced to level 31. But because we're doing it at minimum level, we're going to land there as level 28. Which is why we won't have Flood of Darkness in Haukke Manor, because we're going to be just below that. And Vento says, I vote for Monk. I think I genuinely can't do that. Toto-Rak, you can visit. Just a moment. I have a 1 minute short on how to data center travel in contrast to world travel. You have to log out to your character selection and then right click your character name over on the right and then use it. But you have to log out. And if you don't know where that is, Toto-Rak, just check the short real quick. Oh yeah, and these are this is the candy that Coco mentioned earlier, HK, which some of you may have seen in the Discord or on stream chat before. Gave me these the other day. I think my friend Aria has like a bunch of them at her house. Anyway, while we figure that out, it seems that Dark Knight is the winner on in a vote of 7, so that's 4 against 3, so that was very close. So I'm going to go in, and then maybe Toto-Rak finds Coco here while we're in the dungeon. We're going as Dark Knight. And then we'll see if we can do it without pants. What? Wait, does that pull those? Oh, interesting. You see, the beams actually pointed out that this maid servant was going to pull those mobs, but then when she moved further away from them, it stopped saying that. Oh. I spent too long looking for my interject button. I think we need this key. I'm pretty sure we need this key. The maidservant is not pulled if we pull these. It is pretty funny that the Siphon Strike grants MP before you can even use MP. Hey Samantha. Samantha says, I didn't know that the mob lines could change, or the mob grouping lines could change. Yeah, that is interesting. I think it's because it's a patrol. But I agree. I'm pretty sure that that's what I just saw, that it pointed out lines when it was closer to them. I might have seen wrong now that I think about it, but I'm pretty sure I saw that, and that's what happened. Matthew says, I interrupts even good solo? It depends. If the spell the enemy is casting causes you to have to run away, then waiting until the mob is just barely about to finish their spell and then interrupting them means that they wasted like 3 seconds casting and got nothing out of it. If it's a mob that doesn't have an auto attack, like for instance the prison puddings in the other dungeon, they will just look at you like they're completely in awe of the fact that you had the audacity to do that. Like here, the mob is just standing there for a second like, huh? So ultimately it gives you slightly more uptime and robs the enemy of any value they could have garnered from the spell in the first place. Oh man. The scary part about Dark Knight is that because the healing comes on the 3rd GSD, there's much longer between the heals. And of course we're also getting further, so the enemy is of course getting a little stronger now. They're starting to not put up with my shenanigans of beating them without wearing pants. Is it just me, or do those attic bats hit extremely hard? Or is it the carpet... Why is it called carpet stain? Why is it named that? Oh, the blood drain does unique damage. I think that's why. That means that it hits extremely hard. So, this is something that is rather new, that you can actually see it. So you can see now with the patch 6.3 that came out around New Year, now that you have like the sword icon next to physical damage and the little wand next to magic damage, when you see an attack that has like a green like explosion icon next to it instead, it means that it does unique damage. This damage can still vary, but it does... Typically, it does not care about this. It doesn't care about your defenses. Sometimes it cares about a combination of them, which is what it means by unique, that it is both types. But often it means that it is neither. And if it is neither, then it does not care how much defense you have, which means that a tank will get hit a lot harder by something like that than something that has an element attached to it, or a type attached to it. I agree, Samantha. Back in Stormblood, when I started playing, and I unlocked the Dark Knight. So Dark Mind, I'm just going to take a moment to talk about this. We have plenty of time. Dark Mind still reduced magic vulnerability by 20%, i.e. you take 20% less magic damage. But back then, the way you spent MP is you had this ability called Dark Arts, which empowered your next action where there was like most of the Dark Knight's toolkit could be empowered. So that meant some abilities, some weapon skills. Most regular weapon skills just did like 140 more potency, if I remember correctly, which was still good. That was typically how you did like burst, was like you just used Dark Arts on everything. But if you use Dark Arts on Dark Mind, it was like 40%. And the way I looked at it was, that would be really, really overpowered if I knew when the enemy was using magic spells. Because you can't be sure when the boss uses like a stomp or something that quakes the ground, whether that is actually magic or if it's just physical. Like physical but packaged weirdly, right? Oh, that was a little bit early maybe. So back then, that was the first time I ran into that was the first time I ran into the problem of, man, if only I knew when it was magic damage. Yeah, exactly, Vento. The weirdest part is that if I believe the only way you could know is that it might specify it in the battle log. I don't know if it would do that anymore, because the battle log itself actually includes the swords now. You know, the swords saying physical damage and stuff like that. It might, back in the day, had said, oh, this attack hits you for 400 fire damage or something like that, which would imply that it is magic. Speaking of which, I actually talk about this in my video on how to read a tooltip. And this might be an interesting question for you guys. I will keep the answer for now. How, when reading a tooltip for an action, do you know that it is magic damage and not physical damage? Leave your answers in the comments, or in the chat. And just like a generally vague description of what you think it is also fine. Hey, Kyan. Well, better late than not at all. You've missed us completing Ifrit and 1000 Maws of Totarak. And you also missed the vote when we were deciding between Dark Knight or Warrior. Coco says, reading tooltips? Okay, so I'm just going to wait like another minute to be sure. Vento says, doesn't it typically specify its damage type if it is magic, like fire, ice, thunder, unexpected? Correct. Exactly. That is the correct answer. Hard Slash says, delivers an attack with a potency of 150. Doesn't specify a damage type, because it's physical. Unleash says, deals unaspected damage with a potency of 120 to all nearby enemies, which implies that it is magical because it's specified that it is unaspected. Weirdly, it doesn't say dark magic damage or something like that, which it would have been a lot more fitting. Now, Pokeshack let me know that we don't need this key, so I'm just going to skip that. Kyan says Warrior is good for 60 and above. Warrior is actually viable now for soloing Haukke Manor, because we have Storm's Path, which is actually very good. That is also why we're in as Dark Knight, because Soul Eater makes Dark Knight viable. Sort of. Oh boy. Matthew says, although physical elemental damage does exist. Well, yeah, for example, Red Mage, when it uses its melee combo, that actually says unaspected damage, but it's technically a melee attack, if that's what you mean. But if it is a combination, as in, it's actually dealing both damage types at once, which some enemies might, then it will typically show up as unique damage, the green icon I mentioned earlier. Oh boy, this is problematic. Now that we're kiting them, every time I go in for a smack, they all hit me with their OGCD attacks. I don't think we can do this without just kiting it all the way. I at least need Rampart to take a hit. Matthew says, I mean, physical fire, physical earth. Oh yeah, that's true. Blue Mage has that, right? Blue Mage has some spells that say deals physical fire damage. I believe it's one of them is called like Arson or something like that. I wonder that we could test this after this dungeon, and that's actually really interesting. I haven't used those spells since this rework. So I don't know if they actually show up as unique damage or physical or magical. So that would be interesting to test. Qarn says, just a question, do you need level 70 for the Kamwis in the treasure trove event? I think that you don't need to actually have... I think, I'm not sure, but I think that you don't actually need access to the content that the mounts are from to buy them. I'm pretty sure that is not a requirement for the treasure trove specifically. But I don't know for certain, so I would say probably you don't need them. And Vento says, I bought a Lana while I was level 50 during a treasure trove, so the answer is probably you don't need it. What you will absolutely need is access to the content that actually drops the Morg tomes. Although if you have level 50, you should be able to do Praetorium and just spam the MSQ roulette, which is a viable strategy. It's not a good strategy. It's not the best strategy. It's a strategy, but the best strategy almost always involves Blue Mages. Like, it is almost 100% guaranteed that Blue Mage is going to be the master of this event. Again, the only question is which dungeon or content in general is it going to be. Like, the fact that all of the Alexander raids are up for grabs makes me think maybe one of them. It depends on whether you can beat any of them in 2 minutes. If you can beat any one of them in 2 minutes, then I'm pretty sure they beat everything else. Like, no reason to do something like Cotter's Cry, because it's not going to be enough. I'm thinking Fist of the Father, you know, the very, very first encounter, like fight in Alexander, might be the one, but I haven't done any testing. Last treasure trove, the thing that I tested was, can you solo any of the content that would be relevant? And there I discovered that yes, you can. You could solo Brayflox Longstop hard, which was one of the viable options. It also turned out that Brayflox Longstop was the, like, by a hair, the second best option. It turned out that the best option was one of the Hildebrand trials, for some reason. Also, I'm pretty sure I don't have to dodge that. It's called level 5 Petrify. I'm pretty sure it doesn't work on me because my level is not a multiple of 5. Do you guys want to see if it casts again? If it manages to cast it again, I'll take it. I'll just eat it to see if it gets it. Oh, I guess it doesn't. Never mind then. I think if it's going to be a dungeon, it's probably Cotter's Cry or Temple of Qarn. Now we'll never know. Well, you might be able to figure it out. If you ever go into this dungeon, remember that normal sync puts you at level 31. So level 5 Petrify would actually only work on a level 30. Everyone else would just be like, oh, nice, you're wasting your attack. Oh, dodge, nice. This might become a little problematic because my oh, maybe not. If it's going to waste a majority of its time casting spells that don't matter. Then I might be able, like, every time it casts Void Fire, it gives me like 2 free attacks. So once again, we have a boss that is easier than the trash leading up to it. Yep, spamming MSQ roulette, or specifically Praetorium for that matter, is typically always a viable option. It's not a good option, it's not the best option, not even close. But if you don't want to try and do Blue Mage shenanigans and try to get cheeky about it, and do party finder stuff, then I think it might be the most consistent option. Like the easiest one to just log on and just do a few party finder things. It's not that bad. Whether it's too bad depends on how many items you want from the event. Like if you just want 2 things, then I'm pretty sure that Praetorium spam isn't that bad. It's worse if you need like 300 or 400 Mog Tomes. So you're just sitting there for days, grinding the same stuff, watching all those cutscenes. Oh boy. That is the time for a stun. Oh, I know, Lingstar. Back when I was leveling up all jobs, that was back before the MSQ roulette rework. And I attribute the fact that my hair has a slight green tint to it is the fact that I lost a little bit of my soul spamming it so hard. So yeah, don't overdo the MSQ roulette. Junebug says, I'll probably spam Rival Wings for a few days. Start of the event is one of the only times those queues pop. Actually, if you like doing Rival Wings, there is this Discord called Revival. I can't remember if it's called Revival or PvP Revival. But it is like one of the well-known PvP communities. And they sometimes plan Rival Wing events. So like they go, okay, we're all going to be queuing for Rival Wings on this data center at this time so that they can force a queue pop. So if you like Rival Wings, you might want to join that. Ento says, oh boy, new Moogle Tombstone event. Wow, a new hairstyle I can't use. It's funny with hairstyles. I have gotten some hairstyles that I was excited about getting. A particular one was, I believe it's called Early to Rise. The one that was a rare drop from Delubrum Reginae until you could just purchase it in Zadnor very easily. Oh, there's the diminishing returns. Build up to its maximum. That was why I stunned the last one very early, because I wasn't entirely certain if it was even going to work. And I needed to be able to run away in time. But yeah, the Early to Rise hairstyle was one that I was really looking forward to getting. And the funny thing is, when I finally got it, I looked at it and was like, actually, my character looks kind of weird when she doesn't have this hairstyle that she's wearing right now. Like, my character has had this hairstyle since I made it. Never changed a thing. So any change to her appearance makes me go, it doesn't look right. Hello, Hokage Diana. You're in my live. Indeed. Welcome. Ow, 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 ow. What is doing so much damage? Hell Slash. I think that's one of the skeletons. We need to keep that in mind. Right now we need to focus on the corpse fly. I'm in your house. I would believe that. At least my house in game. Those skeletons are scary. I'm in your walls. That Hill Slash is brutal. Wow. It's just like an extra swing that it actually hits harder. Kargadiana says, this looks harder than a Palace of the Dead Necro run. I think it isn't. I'm pretty sure Palace of the Dead Necro runs are harder. It's just the final 10 floors in particular. But there's also the part that here we have a lot more leeway to fail. Whereas in Palace of the Dead, unless you have Raise, you're dead. It's just one try. Here we can actually go into a pack. If we can just suicide run into a pack and kill one of the mobs, just one, then we can just go back in on a second round and do this. Which is something you wouldn't really be able to do in Palace of the Dead. Like, I'm very willing to admit that Palace of the Dead Necro runs are harder. There's just, like, Palace of the Dead runs, solo runs, you spend like 100 to 150 floors just kind of hanging out. Like, what is a good comparison? I think a good comparison, if you play a game like a hardcore run of a game, there will be a huge part of the run where you're, you know, just going through the motions. It's not that hard. But if you get too greedy or make a mistake, it's back to the beginning with you. So it's sort of casual and relaxing, except when it isn't. I want to have full health for these. I don't know if it's hard. I think this is fun, at least. Somehow the predictable nature of knowing what we're going to be fighting makes it very interesting. Can we beat it? I'm just going to use 2 cooldowns and see if I can just legitimately rush down one of the mobs before I have to kite. That would make it a lot easier. Or at least a lot faster to deal with a pack. I don't want to be in Haukke Manor all day. Matthew J did the research for us. Awesome. Thank you so much. He says, level 5 Petrify is ineffective. So what you're telling me is that it's just casting this for nothing. That is really funny. A fun detail is that, well, I don't know if it's a fun detail, it is a more like just a fact. Level 5 Petrify is one of the spells that are mandatory to learn for Blue Mages for their job quest line. So you have to go in here and do it, which means that it's actually important that a mob like this casts level 5 Petrify even without an effective target. Because if it didn't, then it means that there would be a feasible chance that some players would be stuck because they wouldn't be able to make the mob cast the spell. On a plus side of it, after the rework of Haukke Manor, because there's now 2 of the mana sentries, you don't have to clear like 95% of the dungeon to get level 5 Petrify anymore. Because you can just do that specific mana sentry around before the first boss. And for anyone curious, no, you don't use level 5 Petrify for anything. Longstop says, how does Blue Mage work? I've never tried it. So the way that it works is that it has like a list of Blue Mage spells here. When you unlock it, you only have Water Cannon, and all of the other slots are just like, they will just tell you a hint about where you can find it. Like you can see where it says here how to learn, where it says where to check. And to learn a spell, you have to go find an enemy that has it. The enemy has to cast the spell. You don't have to get hit by the spell, but the enemy has to cast it. Then you have to kill the enemy, and you have to live to see it die. So that means if you die through the encounter, doesn't matter if you're alive when the enemy dies. So that means you could enter the fight, The enemy casts the spell, you die, you get raised, and the enemy dies. That's still legitimate. That still counts. And now the thing is that when you kill something to learn something as a Blue Mage, there is a chance you don't learn the spell. Now, this chance that you don't learn the spell is 0%. So you're guaranteed to learn it, is what I'm saying, if you're doing the dungeon or raid synced. So like if you're doing the dungeon correctly, even if you're alone, if it's synced, the learn rate is 100%. If you're doing it unsynced, then the chance is dramatically lowered, unless the spell is mandatory for your job quest line, like for instance level 5 Petrify. That one you will learn 100% of the time. Every single time you will learn that spell when you fight that mob, assuming it gets to cast it. And then you have the spell and you can use it. Now the thing is, level 5 Petrify is this one. Petrifies all enemies in a cone before you for 20 seconds. There's a very low chance that it actually works. And the enemy level must be a multiple of 5, and it has no effect on enemies that are higher than your own level. Which means that it only works on level 5, 10, 15, 20 and so on enemies. It has no effect on anything else, and even on the enemies it would work on, it has a huge chance of failing. The reason why people don't use that is because I think there is a spell somewhere here you can use to instantly kill enemies that are petrified or something like that, but it's completely pointless, because if an enemy is a level multiple of 5, you can use level 5 death and just kill them outright. And if the enemy can be crowd controlled, then you can use deep freeze on them, stunning them for 12 seconds, and then you can use ultra vibration and kill them instantly. So any enemy that Petrify would have worked on in the first place, Blue Mage has not one, but 2 better options. So that's why you never see anyone use it. Kyan says, wait, is Blue Mage not allowed in the A Realm Reborn runs? What do you mean with A Realm Reborn runs? Do you mean the dungeons I'm doing right now? Like these challenge runs? Or do you mean something more specific? Or more general? Like, what do you mean in particular? And the reason why I'm kiting these out from the very start is because I know that I can't kill a single mana servant before I run out of cooldowns if there's 2 mana servants. So if there's 3, there's no chance. Kind says, yeah, the runs you're doing. Yeah, Blue Mage is considered one of the quote-unquote banned options in the rules. If we reach a point where regular job can't do it, then I will pull out Blue Mage before I start to say, no, it cannot be done. But Blue Mage is considered one of the power tools that we're going to be using if it can't be done. For those interested, wearing pants is also on that list. Or now it is. And the reason for that is because, here's the thing, this pack that I'm fighting right now, if I was Blue Mage, I would run up to the pack, swift cast Ram's Voice to freeze all 4 enemies for 12 seconds so they can't do anything, and then would use Ultra Vibration and they all immediately die and we would be able to move on. Blue Mage is insanely overpowered. Like, absolutely, absurdly overpowered. So it wouldn't be very interesting if I did this as Blue Mage. It is like, the question, can you solo Haukke Manor, is like, synced, is like, yes, Blue Mage can. That is a given, that obviously Blue Mage would be able to do it. It's not even that hard. You can do it without Ram's Voice. Like, it's not difficult. The only thing that would be a little annoying is that Ultra Vibration has a 2-minute cooldown, so you can only do that overpowered of a strategy like every other pull. But it is extremely overpowered. So the thing is, I'm trying to do these runs in a difficult way. That's why, like, I'm using a job that is capable of doing it. We've also previously explored the possibility that healer jobs can solo dungeons, given that we soloed Sastasha and Tamtara Deepcroft with Scholar, which was not easy. That required a lot of kiting bosses. Which is very funny in retrospect, that here we're kiting mobs and just fighting the bosses head on. But with healer we were kiting the bosses and sometimes fighting the enemies head on. But when we were doing it with a healer, we also were wearing a full set of gear. It was when we went into Copperbell Mines that it turned out that the fights were so incredibly easy that I was like, I could probably take off my pants. And then we pulled another pack and I was like, I could probably take off my boots. And then we pulled a few more packs and I'm like, I don't think I need my gloves either. And the only reason why we're stopping there is because Kai is modest, okay? Like, if we're going to strip down to less than this, I have to bring some glamour gear or something. It would be awkward if we weren't wearing anything, right? But yeah, I think I put the rules of this challenge in the stream description, and I think it mentions, it strictly mentions Blue Mage. It's seen no other players allowed, only synced, no Blue Mage, only with minimum item level enabled, and only with silence echo enabled, which hasn't turned out to be significant yet. But the important part is the order these things are written, because as I mentioned underneath that rule in the description is that if we can't do it, like if it is not actually possible to do it, then we're going to like clear out rules bottom up. So that means that if we're in an encounter where silence echo matters, then we will try again with echo enabled. And if that doesn't work, we're going to allow being synced normally, which means we're going to gain some levels, right? Or we're going to gain some item levels, and so on and so forth. But as you can see, there is some steps before I would state that a dungeon isn't possible to solo at all. And the reason why synced is also something that could be turned off is because if we actually reach like a level 70 dungeon, well, then it's very likely that some content like isn't completely a pushover, even synced. Longstop says, I swear I have had tanks like this before. I mean, this is a strategy. You can see that it works. In my somewhat recently released 6 tips for tanking guide, I do believe I mentioned kiting as a strategy for surviving. So yeah, ow. Ow. Not doing wall-to-wall pulling. If we reach a point where I can do wall-to-wall pulls, I'm going to take off equipment. Go. You know that's going to be what's going to happen instead. I'm not just going to do wall-to-wall pulls for the memes. I'm going to take off gear and be like, oh wow, this single pull is really hard. Oh yeah, and also enhanced on vent. Ventus says, you say that it's not a pushover at 70, but Warrior would be about 56 by then. Well, the thing is that I know right now that there is a trial in Stormblood that we cannot complete. I also know that there's a very high chance that we will not be capable of beating the naval synced. But we'll see about that when we get there. And the reason for that is that the jail, where you get put into like a block of rocks, It stuns you for 20 seconds. Titan will not hit you while you're in the rocks. He will just look at you. But when the rocks end, the hard version of Titan, so the level 50 version, the level 50 trial version, it hits you for like 20,000 damage. I think it's 20,000, and also gives you a like 90% damage down effect. It's insanely brutal and makes the fight take an eternity. But the only way you can survive 20,000 damage is if you're doing it unsynced with Echo. So the question is, how much damage does it do on normal at level 34? Can we survive that? And if there's any way to survive it, I will try to do it. Like, I will try my hardest, but I don't even think Blue Mage can do it. I don't think Blue Mage can do it. If you get hit by jail, then it's over. So you need to beat, either you need to beat a Titan before he casts it, or you need to be able to live jail, and I'm pretty sure you can't live jail. So like, one option left. And maybe Blue Mage can beat him in time? Titan jails give me PTSD. The best one is when you get jailed, and then your team kills the jail, which means that you're attackable but can't move just as the landslide happens. Thanks, guys, but no thanks. And now we get to the second boss. Vento says, did you know that Dark Knight can solo A12S unsynced? That's interesting. You know, at the very end of Shadowbringers, I saw a video by Mr. Happy where he soloed A12S with Warrior, and there he stated that it can only be done with luck. Like, it's only possible to do it if you're like, if you get crits, like lucky crits. And remember, we're talking Warrior. We're talking about Warrior. I should have interrupted that. We're talking about Warrior here. Needs luck to get enough crits to be able to beat it in time. Oh boy. This is a huge problem. I can't heal if I'm at range. I think we're going to need more gear. I'm going to give it one more try without changing anything. I wasted a lot of power on letting that first ice spikes go through. So we're going to give it one more try without changing anything. But yeah, it makes sense that the Dark Knight might be able to do that. I'm guessing it's because Alexander doesn't do enough damage to kill you, so the small amounts of healing that Dark Knight can do is enough. Second boss is the hardest, it is becoming a pattern. Yeah, that is a good point. That is a good point. There's a good chance that the final boss here is going to be very hard as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't. And that is a good point. So, same plan, but this time I actually remember to interrupt the Mana Jester right at the outset, which means I need to sprint. And also I'm going to go over here so that the steward has to run a little bit further. Maybe I should have kept the stun for the soul drain. What? Oh, I got hit by it this time. That was really dumb. That is another that is another redo. I just took 400 avoidable damage. I think it might be possible. The thing is that if we can kill the Jester, then the skeleton has no chance. Like, if we can kill one of them, then the other can't beat us alone. So that is the big difference. Like, that is the only thing we need to do, is we need to kill one of them and then have enough health to recover, and then the other one will just get overwhelmed. I think this can be done. I still think it might be possible now. The thing is, I just need to not do stupid mistakes. So we're going to save Low Blow for when the Steward starts casting Soul Drain. And then we stun it. And then we save Low Blow for next time it casts Soul Drain. And we can stop its Soul Drain 3 times, which means that we can maximize our uptime on the Jester. Why do you take the long way? Because I didn't see a shortcut. Is there a shortcut and I just didn't see it? I don't think I've ever had to run back to this fight before, so that's why. Also, Hokage Diana says, I cleared Ooh today, and Titan was a pain. Ah. Well, Titan is so notoriously brutal that there's a joke about Titan in the Eden story. Is there a shortcut and I just didn't see it? Is it like on the right or something? Ugh. Okay, I'm reaching the point where I'm willing to admit that I need to put on more gear at the very least. I can't, it seems like they do more and more damage. It's behind the main staircase. What? I'm going to put on gloves. I'm going to put on gloves. The gloves are on. Oh. Right. That is a good point. You know, I haven't ever used that door. Like, ever. So it never occurred to me that that's how the building connected. Well, that helps. That helps a lot. That saves us some time. So now we are going in with a lot more armor. I think. How much more? Like 2 or 3% more health and like 50% more armor almost. It reduces the blizzard damage by like 10% from what I can tell. Oh, that's why it's so painful. The skeleton is using that hill slash as well. But this is painful. My interrupt didn't work, apparently. I'm pretty sure I clicked it in time, but I guess not. That is going to be a wipe. What? Well, that was a wipe, but I think I just did some science. Did you see that? I'm pretty sure the imp got line of sighted there. And the reason why I'm not sprinting back is because I have to wait for sprint for the pull. So now we go again. Try one more time. I'm pretty sure that it should be... You wiped on this boss multiple times? That is surprising. No, 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 no. No, no ice spikes, please. Oh, that was a convenient interrupt. Oh. Jan Paladin, that's a death sentence. I think we need shoes. I think we need more gear. But this is sort of working. I'm going to try and see if like staying behind cover makes the imp like come to me a little bit, because if I can get him close enough that I can just, you know, step around the corner no problem, then it's going to be a lot easier. Because you see I'm running back and forth, it's because apparently that little edge there can line of sight the imp. So if we can just get the imp to follow me a little bit of the way, I need it to specifically not come all the way, because then I lose the corner completely. Oh no. Yeah. Uh-oh. Oh, wait, I can actually outrange them. Typical mentor. Apparently I can kite them. We're making all sorts of discoveries on this stream. That is a little bit annoying. Alright. Now it's just you and me. Whew. So for those that couldn't see what I was doing, on this exact corner over here, it turns out that you can line of sight the imp. So if I step around the corner, like in the last half a second before Blizzard goes through, the imp will just, instead of casting, it will just kind of stand there and then just marvel at my ingenuity for a few seconds. And then it will start casting again, and if I can do that consistently, then I can, like, every time it fails to cast Blizzard, I survive, like, I effectively avoid 100 damage or so. Which was the only way to do this, like, either that or I had to regularly kite them around the room. But the thing is, I discovered in this attempt specifically that that was even an option. So I was going to, like, stick to my plan of a line of sighting on around that corner and just use the outranging maneuver specifically if I managed to mess up the imp's position so that I couldn't line of sight anymore. So the perfect, like, sweet spot was when the imp was around there, because then I could, like, just step around the corner for, like, without losing very much uptime at all. Skeleton Orchestra says, is this going in the VODs? Of course it is. I can't rewind it this time. All of my live streams are going to be VODs, 100%. The reason why I have turned off the DVR thing that allows you to rewind is because I have heard that it's more often that people just, like, their streams fall behind without them realizing. So, like, over the course of a stream, suddenly they're watching 2 minutes behind because they don't realize it. So it doesn't change very much. It ultimately makes it easier for them to know what they're watching is live, because they can't rewind it. And I asked about it, and people said ultimately they weren't using the rewind feature anyway, so because it was not helpful and was almost problematic for a few viewers, I decided to turn it off. But you have a good point, Skeleton Orchestra, that perhaps it would be good to have the DVR thing turned on for these streams, because then you can rewind and see what on earth the trick I just did was. But I don't feel... I don't want to risk if it messes with anything if I turn it on mid-stream. Because I can do that, but I don't know if that messes with the stream. So I don't want to risk it. But I'll remember it for next stream. You can just... Yeah, that's true, you can watch the VOD after, that's true. That's also sort of the idea, is that a long time ago, when I was doing Palace of the Dead solo, I remember I was like, oh yeah, you just came into the stream, you just did something really cool, you just missed it. And then I said, you could rewind and watch it. And they said, nah, I'd rather watch it live while it is live. Which is also an argument for there's no need for the rewind. Oh, I completely forgot. We need to take off some gear again. We only wear boots and gloves when the boss makes us. Yeah, Amandine, make me wear gloves. Matthew says the next boss will be just as hard. Do you think so? Or are you messing with me? I think it comes down to whether there are ads. Because this mechanic doesn't do anything. There's the ad. And that's when I turn on my defensive cooldowns. The ad isn't very strong. Oh, she's immune to stuns. Good to know. And now I have used my stun, so I can't prevent that stone skin. I did remember there was like some sort of crowd control here. That was why I used a potion preemptively, just in case. Oh, I can interrupt that. What a tank buster, am I right? I can just interrupt that. And then the middle glare again. That's so silly. Interruptible tank busters. Oh, and there comes the seduce thing again. If there's no more ads, then the rest of this fight is easy. Huh. I will say, this dungeon has been long. I think we're nearing an hour. Which I think is longer than what it took to do Sastasha as Scholar, which also took an eternity. But it is a pretty funny pattern that we're running into, that the second boss is insanely hard and the final boss is sorta It's just a huge health blob, which was also the case in the previous dungeon. She just has an absurd amount of health. But I don't need to use anything, really. Like, it's just the interrupt here. Can I have that in my savages? Interruptible tank busters. That would be interesting. I haven't done, like, raiding, like high-level raiding in Guild Wars 2, but I believe in Guild Wars 2, the way they've done it is that the bosses have, like, a sort of like a poise meter, where if you use crowd controlling effects, that damages it. So if you want to interrupt the boss or something to that effect, everyone has to just like lump all of their interrupts on the boss as a team to stop it. Like, something like that would be interesting. It's just that in Final Fantasy XIV, because only like half of the jobs have interrupts in the first place, it becomes like, I mean, if there is a raid where you would need to like interrupt something multiple times, what it's going to do is it's going to make ranged physical jobs have a heavy advantage, because they're the only other job than tanks that can interrupt. Like, it would give groups another incentive in it, like, besides the party finder, like, with the party bonus, to bring a ranged physical job, like, specifically a ranged physical job. But it might actually give you incentive to bring more than one or even more than two and sacrifice party bonus to make it easier to deal with this mechanic, for example. So I could imagine that something like this would never be a thing. They would never have more than 2 things that need to be interrupted in a raid encounter. And if they do, it would have to be like optional interrupts because of that. Double physical rage meta, it's time. I would find it very interesting if some boss encounters favored a specific role so heavily that certain raid groups would opt to not have every role represented at all, specifically to combat a specific mechanic. But the key thing is that this would be bad for the game, because that would have the effect that whichever other role that is sacrificed to make this is going to have problems finding groups for this encounter at all. Like, if you find a raid boss that favors ranged heavily enough, then there would be an incentive to bring 0 melee. Yes, you're losing 1% stats across the board. That doesn't matter if that 1 DPS that isn't melee compensates for that, right? 62 minutes. Oh. Music. Finding 1 physical range is hard enough. Is it? Is physical range like super rare? That is interesting. Is that Toto-Rak? Hit me. Are you a healer main? Vento says, so when are we going to run into the problem of timing out the instance? We are Reaper main. Is healer your secondary? But yeah, that is the thing. I can do all of these shenanigans and fancy tricks that I can pull out of a hat to mess with things. But if we don't have time to do that, then I have to, you know, confront things as they are. Like, if we have to rush it to do enough damage, then you have to get less creative with the pulls. Right, I'll be right back. I'll be right back, and then we do Brayflox. Alright, Linkstar. See you soon. Thank you for watching. Alright, I'm back. That is a good idea, Toto-Rak. Playing a little bit of everything. Right. So. Brayflox Longstop. So just to go over the jobs that we've talked about and used in these solo situations. Now that we're going to be level 32, this means that Dark Knight will have Flood of Darkness, but actually the 10% extra damage is the more valuable part of this than the damage it does, because it's 100 potency. We care more about killing individual mobs quickly than cleaving down mobs. Warrior gets Thrill of Battle, which is like, it's a heal. It's an extra heal, that's nice. Gunbreaker gets Burst Strike, which is actually really awkward, because that means that there's even more time that we're going to be using GZDs that don't heal us. So that is also a problem that will arise with Warrior at level 35. Congratulations, you can use Inner Beast for extra damage, but it's going to cost you healing down the line. Dark Knight doesn't have this problem. You don't get anything other than your 1-2-3 combo until like level 62. But Warrior of course compensates for that when it gets Raw Intuition, and Gunbreaker compensates for that when it gets Aurora. So those are like two key things that we're going to look forward to as well. And for Scholar, now that we're over level 30, it means that we have access to Adlocurium. And we also have Bio 2, but we would have had that for Haukke Manor as well. Sage now also would have Eucrasia, so now we have a dot. We have both of the shields. And I think that's like the key ones that unlock something interesting that I think would be regularly capable of soloing stuff. But I think we're going to stick with Dark Knight, especially because it unlocked something very cool now. Also, I see Coco is also wearing less equipment. Let me just check something. Nope, it's fine. I just needed to know if I needed to use a stronger potion. This is also one of those packs that get a little awkward because there's a ranged mob in them. Imagine being allowed to fight just 2 mobs. I think we're just going to like slowly single down this mob, and then the next pack, the difficult part is we need to kill the monkey. Because as long as it's alive, we can't kite the colibris. Because it's like, then there's a range just whittling us down while we're trying to do that. So we need to kill it first. That is like a requirement. Now the question is whether we need to wait for Rampart. So in retrospect, I should probably not have used Rampart on the pack I just did to save myself a potion. Ow, ow, ow. No point in using Flood if it isn't going to kill the monkey. Just barely. Just barely did it. We're really pushing it Which also means that I might actually need to bring more potions, after all. If we're using 2 potions per pull? Or more even. Here we are. Cut the music! If I remember correctly, the Raincatcher has like an AoE silence for some reason. Yep, 5-second silence. Just for the fun of it. I have to say I hadn't expected that we would need to kite this often. And a strategy like this would also be more effective if we used an actual ranged job. And then the stun. Are the ads strong? The ads are strong. The ads are very strong and they apply very strong dots as well. I think we're dead. Let me try that again. I didn't respect the ads because I assumed that they weren't that powerful. Let me just run that back. Vento says, I wanted to come say hi, but you can't do data center travel from NA to EU. Yeah, that's true, unfortunately. We're still hoping for worldwide data center travel someday. Oh man. Those dots are brutal. Now we just have to survive the dots for a little bit, hopefully. Don't hammer beak me. Oh no. Oh boy. The only way I can survive this is to outlast it and just potion. This isn't happening with this gear. I can't do that. Just as I'm about to maybe stabilize. Oh, what if there was 3 more ads? That is not happening. We're putting on the gloves. We're putting on the gloves. But then we're going to try again, mostly the same way again. It might help if we only get one dot. And dodging a hammerbeak is also pretty huge. Now we need to survive with using minimal cooldowns. So that we have them when the ads spawn. You really like that, don't you? You really like to use that hammerbeak thing. I don't know if I actually can overcome that. That is insane. Where we at? We are bonking our head against the first boss of Brayflox Longstop. Also, welcome back. I think we might end up having to put on pants, and that might not even be enough. It does a tank buster like every 3 swings. It's really strong. Not to mention the ads that are just also there. And yeah, the poison is very strong as well. The ads also hit surprisingly hard. But it's specifically the hammerbeak. It uses it more often than Ifrit uses its fire breath. And then its auto attacks also hit harder. And then it also has ads. And look at that. That's just 400 damage in an instant. I'm not sure what to do about this. Just please use that more. That is the best idea you got this entire boss fight. To use a telegraph. Can you keep doing that, please? Have you tried a blind pot? I have not. I have not brought anything like that. We could do that. Let me just put on pants, and then we'll see if that's enough. And then if that isn't enough, I also have food buffs that we can try for extra health and stuff. And now we have 2 dots. Awesome. But that is actually a good idea, Kai, and maybe if we use some A Realm Reborn shenanigans, like debuff potions and stuff, maybe that will help. We could also bring antidotes. That might also make this more manageable. Ow. We can see just the boss alone is too much. The moment that I run out of cooldowns. So when the ads spawn, there's just no chance. But making it miss a lot might actually be what we need. Ah yes, the crit. That was exactly what we needed to survive this. And more ads. Oh boy, I think they're on a timer. There's also the part that we would have to clear these packs again to be able to get back to the boss if we go out. Let's add food. See, how much more health do we have? We have around 10% more health. That helps. And then more stats. That also helps. Don't know if it helps enough, but it helps. Really trying to like extend my cooldowns as much as I can. Don't know if that is going to matter, because it's just so strong. So weirdly strong, this random great yellow pelican. It's a pelican. The downfall of the solo challenge. The pelican. Yep. Let's see what we can buy then. I don't think I can do this. Not as we are equipped right now. But I'd rather not. Ifrit, Void Sent, and then there's the ultimate evil, the pelican. So the reason why I'm going over here is because the Grand Company sells some potions that we might use. I think you can buy antidotes here, for example. Yep, there we are. I think we'll just get 50, that should be enough. That doesn't help. None of these will help us. Is there anything here? Wait a minute. That's better than this. But wait. Does that actually work? That might help us. Oh, it's unique. That that makes it significantly worse. That will only be helpful for one try. Don't think we're going to use that then. Can you buy blind potions and stuff from a random NPC somewhere? I would guess an apothecary or something might sell it. Seems that it's just the cures We don't have the actually offensive potions. Would that go under medicine? Huh. See, that would be much more helpful if it didn't last a measly 15 seconds. Up to level 35, you say? Oh, a shorter cooldown. That is only 12 seconds. That is very, very limiting. And the question is whether that would also work. You just need this one. This could also be helpful. But the fact that they last such a short time is a little bad. Not surprising, but not helpful. So, oh, we also need space for the we bought antidotes, didn't we? There they are. Let's move that over here instead. It's a little further away so we don't accidentally use it. Now we have to re-clear those packs. I'll do that with pants so that we can clear it a little bit faster. Because we already did it before. But we have to do it again. But I think that's everything we can do. If this isn't enough, then I'm not saying that it can't be done, because it might be doable by someone, but I certainly can't do it, at least not with Dark Knight, and I'm pretty sure that Gunbreaker and Warrior would fare even worse. The advantage that Warrior has is that it's able to do slightly more damage, and the advantage that Gunbreaker has is that it has an extra cooldown. It's also able to do more damage, but the thing is that we're not at a point where it is even close. It's not like, oh, if we just did like 10% more damage, we could do it. We're dead before there's even like a hope that it could be done. Warrior has Trail of Battle, that's true. That is an extra heal that we could use as well. But the thing is that that's 20% of your health, but Storm's Path heals for less than Soul Eater. So we're we're trading more healing over time for more burst healing. And I don't know if that's a good trade. Like, well, we're also trading the extra damage that we'd get from Warrior. So that would be something we could try if this doesn't work. Like, if this isn't enough. But that is the final option, I think. To try with Warrior instead, just to see if it changes anything that we mix up the components like that. I think it's also more than 10%. Like in damage. It is quite funny that silence prevents you from casting specifically spells, which means that abilities that are magical, you can still use those, no problem. I think 100 potions should be enough. We spent quite a few potions trying to mess with the boss. But if we can get past the boss, I'm pretty sure the only other things that would be particularly challenging are the other two bosses. Most of the random packs, if we fall far enough low in potions, we could switch around so we use some slightly worse potions for trash packs, or just not use potions on trash packs. Like, if we can kill a single mob and just run back in, that's good enough. Speaking of running back in... just make sure we have all the cooldowns and full health. Right. Oh boy. Antidote. How incredible, it removes 1. And it has a shared cooldown with all the other shenanigans we brought. I mean, it's better than nothing, but the fact that they all share cooldown is really not helping. The reason I'm not using the other cooldown is because we have to use them when the ads come out. That's when we need them the most. I didn't want to attack the boss. And there's going to be more ads. Like the previous try, there was like ads every 20% or so. Yep. Okay, we managed to reset the diminishing returns on the boss. So that gave us some extra stun time, but I think we're still dead. If there's no more ads, then this might be possible, but nope, there they are. Ah, that's not diminishing returns. I used the single-use draft, so this is if we can't do it now, then that's it. Then I certainly can't do this. A whole third variant of these mobs. That's incredible. And there's more ads. I was really like, maybe we're done. And there's more ads. We did it! We got the pelican! Yeah, I think when the last ads come, you just have to go for it like that. Like when you're out of opportunities to like deal with the ads, you just have to kill the boss. Like I had nothing left. I used this one use, like if those potions weren't unique, then that could possibly have been much easier. Like that Duskin draft healed me for twice the amount that the high potion does. 8 seconds more cooldown, but it's way more doable. Wait, oh, a treasure coffer. Does that have a potion? It does not. Matthew says, it's a good thing we learned that bosses don't increase in difficulty. What are you talking about? Oh, right. Well, maybe. Now the question is the second boss harder? For some reason. The mechanic that the second boss would have that would make this really hard is the thing where it puts you in a bubble. That decreases your damage output immensely. And you have to kill the bubble to stop that. The dragon has thorns. Oh, right. The lizard. That's true. I forgot there's 4 bosses in this dungeon for some reason. Oh yeah, and the ad. We're really reaching the point where it starts to get brutal here. Does the mud puppy not have a coffer? I'm pretty sure it drops loot. I'm pretty sure it has a coffer. Well, after the dragon stomps it. But I mean, still. So the good news with us beating that first boss in the first try somehow, with the help of antidotes, we have time for more bosses. Because we only have spent 13 minutes and we're at the second boss now. Now I'm going to wait. What's going on up there? What happens when the Pathfinder dies? Alright. Just nothing happens. That's important. I'm just going to wait for arm's length. So that we have everything. I think this is good enough. Oh, 200 auto attacks. That's fine. I should have waited with that a little bit. That is insane. Why do you hit so hard? Well, we have to kill this. This is weaker than the big one. So we have to kill that first. So that we don't have to deal with both of them. I keep forgetting to use my Flood of Darkness. That's really, really bad. Paralysis? Really? Well, now we're dead. Which one of them used... Was that the Brayflox using paralysis and messing me up there? Okay, we were really close to killing the ad. So if I'm a little bit faster to focus the ad the instant that it's on the field, we might be able to do it. Also, I need more food buff. This isn't going to happen without a food buff. Also, I haven't been using those blinding potions. That is probably also going to be extremely helpful. So let's use that for this try. I'm going to use it... I think you can leave the ad hitting the goblin. The ad will eventually attack the player. 100%. It will eventually attack the player. So it's better to kill it before it does so. Okay, the blind was like 2 swings that it missed. That's pretty good. Come on, step it up, run quickly so that I don't have to deal with the big dragon. I should have stunned the big one. Nice dodge. Oh. And did it again. Okay, so the good news are that if I'm stunning the small one and now I'm paralyzed, that is terrible. This is why it's called Brayflox All Talks, because most of the stuff that it does, that Brayflox does, doesn't help you. And now I'm paralyzed again. Is it the small one that does that? Okay, I'm not paralyzed as long. That's good at least. Here, have another blind. Oh, there's the thorns. How bad is it? 36. Still better to keep attacking then. Can you, Brayflox, don't face the boss at me. I appreciate you taunting for me, but don't face the boss at me. That sort of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? Present. Don't give me anything, Brayflox. I don't want it. And I keep forgetting my edge again. I think we've got this. Hopefully. Thing is, I don't really have any more cooldowns. Exactly, Ravio. Brayflox is just like the random element in this fight. Just imagine an extra player that randomly taunts the boss. that's what Brayflox does. The only good news about that is that Brayflox taunts the boss shortly before the boss casts its cone attack. So if I make sure that I'm not standing on Brayflox, then I'm not going to get hit. Have another blind. Enjoy that. Another close one. That actually started to get tight at the end as well. That's incredible how huge a leap in difficulty we suddenly have. Like before this, we just went in with several gear pieces missing. And now every single boss, we're using extra things just to survive. And spamming potions on cooldown. But we had like nearly 100 potions when we started, so it should be fine. We should have enough potions for the rest of this dungeon. Even with wipes, we should be fine. That's the main thing I worry about, is that if we run out of anything that we need to be able to continue, then we're done. Like, I'm not dealing with the Pelican again. Like, if we wipe to the point that we run out of tools or time, then it's over. Then we can't. Then I can't do it. I feel like it was lucky that we beat Pelican before. It was interesting, certainly, but I don't think I can do that again. You barely can do it again. I'll be honest, I had the hint, was it Kayan that suggested it? The tip about bringing a blinding potion, like I knew these items existed, but I would have never thought about doing that. Ultimately, that didn't help for Pelican, but it helped for the second boss. And Pelican helped with antidotes. And that was something like we thought about antidotes in Totarak when we saw poisons that couldn't be removed with the Suna. Like, can you then remove it with antidote? But we never got around to checking. So I might not have thought about that either. Just too focused on the shenanigans with not using gear. The reason why I'm specifically focusing the Wormhound first is because I believe it has a stomp. Don't say pelican, don't say pelicant, say pelican. There's the stomp. So the second most dangerous mob here, I'm pretty sure is the Eft, because it has that magic attack. And I think it's also the one that's hitting harder right now. And then also has the Peculiar Light, which is, by the way, a Blue Mage spell. So if you need Peculiar Light, it comes from here. It is one of the spells that are viable in max level. Like, that people actually might use in a raid. Like when doing full Blue Mage compositions and stuff like that. So I think it's also mandatory to pick up, but I'm pretty sure that you'd want it even if it wasn't. Now we wait for cooldowns. The scary thing about this boss is specifically the mechanic where it puts you in a bubble, because that, I think it both makes you take more damage and also makes you do way less damage. So we need to, like, yes, we're going to use Flood of Darkness to keep our buff up, but everything else we need to save to deal with the bubble as quickly as possible. It's not as, it doesn't hit as hard as the lizard as well. That's good. But then it does that. I'm also going to save every single cooldown that I can get away with saving for when it does the bubble thing. So that I can maybe reduce the damage it does while I deal with that. Ah. Ugh. That was rough. I used the blind. I don't know if it actually helped anything, but I used the blind. Another one already? I hope you're not going to spam these, Hellbender. Because I managed to get hit by that. That's really, really bad. That means that the Borg thing that it casts sometimes is going to hurt like crazy. If it manages to do it, of course. Oh, it only does 50% more damage. And that was because they stepped into that 1 second to, like, a fraction of a second too soon. Oh dear. Uh-oh. Don't ranged me! Please keep chasing me, because I can't heal while I'm doing this. I don't know if that just went downhill the moment that the boss got me with the peculiar light. I'm pretty sure that only got me to take like 100 extra damage. But we might be able to do it if I just don't make mistakes. Actually, maybe paralysis is better. Because that actually stops the enemy for a moment, and if it's casting something, maybe? I don't know. Its spells aren't that much better, so it might not change that much. It's probably better that the blinding potion lasts for 2 extra seconds, so it can block more hits. That's ridiculous. Like, we did Haukke Manor, like, it was not easy to deal with the double boss, but this is, like, a completely different level. I'm just going to try and save everything for when the bubble thing comes. And preferably only stun if it does the stagnant spray thing while I can't dodge it, because that's simply too scary. Like, I think that might have been what killed the attempt, was that when I got hit by the stagnant spray while in the bubble. Because I think that did like 400 damage. Blind it. And then it casts something, of course. Very smart. I don't know if it feels like it's more likely to do it if I run away from it. But if it casts anything, I'm dead. Other than that, of course. Ah. Stop casting the stupid bubble! I don't know. I don't know if we can do it. I think actually that this might be doable by a healer. I think Scholar might be able to do it. I'm going to try one more time. But I don't think I can do it. It's simply too much because every time, like, I need to run away from it to, like, regain health because it outdamages my healing. But I also can't run away because it seems like when I run away, it does the bubble thing. And it also does the bubble thing anyway, but it seems like it's more likely to do it if you're not, like, if I run away. For some reason, it seems like it does that. We're going to try one more time. And the reason why I say I think we can do it with a healer is because, for example, the hammer beak on the first boss does like 200 damage on a tank. So if it does 300 or 400, that should still be survivable by a scholar. So if we can survive that and like kill it slowly and still be on top of it with the adds, then it might be doable. Is what I'm thinking. And then this boss is also like, it's mainly the fact that it overwhelms you over time. Like, with every single bubble thing. But with a healer, every time the boss isn't doing something that requires your immediate attention in terms of damage output, you can just, like, turn inward and just spam heal yourself until you're safe. I think that's how it might work. Then we might be able to do it. And it's the same thing with the lizard. While it does an absurd amount of damage, the thing is that it might be livable. Hey Mirage, ow. It just spams that as soon as it reaches a certain health threshold, it feels like. I really don't know if it's every time I start moving, but it feels like it has something to do with me moving. And if it does, then we can't run away very often. Oh man. And again. Ah yes, a 200 crit, that's what I needed. And again and again. Are you serious right now? I don't think I can stun it anymore. Nope. I can't do this. I can't do this. I think the dragon comes down at like 20%, but that was 31. And I feel like I used my cooldowns as well as I possibly could. And I don't think it's possible. I really don't. But in regards to a healer doing it, that might be possible. You seem to have an attractive aura with those bubbles. Yeah. It's actually crazy how often it casts that. I don't know if it's like designed to spam it when it reaches a certain threshold so that it manages to use it like twice before you kill it in a normal group, but because I'm like alone, it stays in this phase for an eternity. It's just too much. We might be able to try with a healer, but it's also getting really late. And the run we just did was like 40 minutes to just do what we did. So just to get back there, like the first boss took 13 minutes on Dark Knight, where we presumably would do more damage than with Scholar. So I think we'll have to try the Scholar next time. And then, of course, the dungeon that comes, or the encounter that comes after Brayflox Longstop is, of course, the Naval, which is presumably also not possible to defeat at all solo synced. So that's fun. But it's an incredible step up in difficulty. Now, normally I end these streams 20 minutes ago. So I think this is a good time to round up the stream. So if there's anything you guys would like to talk about before we end, this is a great time to ask anything, really. And while you figure out some questions, I would like to remind you that there is a community Discord for this YouTube channel. So if you would like to get the notifications for the weekly schedule, which is every Sunday or Monday, or you would like to get reminded whenever I post a video or plan a stream or whatever, then being on the Discord is the most effective way to do that. There's also lots of people you can talk with, mainly people that show up for these streams, in fact. So that might be fun. Of course, a second very effective way to keep track of what's happening on the channel is also to subscribe to the channel, of course. Then you get it in your subscription feed and you tell YouTube's algorithm that you want to see my content in your news feed. And if you like to be on Twitter, I also have a Twitter, which is the same name. And it should also be in the description. If you prefer to get your notifications there, whenever I post a video or anything, I put a reminder there as well. But the first place they happen is always on the Discord. That's where they show up first. In fact, when a stream is planned, that usually comes up on the Discord hours beforehand. Another thing, which is maybe not as approachable for some people, but I would like to mention, as you can see Coco in the stream chat, there is a membership option. That is, of course, if you want to support the channel. I mentioned this in my videos as well. The main thing you get out of this is like you get a few emotes that you can use on the streams. You get this fancy gem next to your name, this pink crystal, and you also get your name green, so you stand out a little bit if that's special to you, if that matters to you. And of course, your name lands in the end slate of the videos. And then of course you support me so that I can make more content. But if you've seen, I post a lot of job guides right now. The members on the channel actually has quite a lot of say in which job guides come out, because every time I finished job guides, I put out a poll to the members specifically to ask what job should I do next, and usually I put like 4 or 5 jobs in the list. But if someone wants something specific that isn't on the list, they can always say it. Like, for example, Sage, the Sage job guides actually pushed way up in the front of the queue because it was requested that people wanted that specific guide, so I made that one first over those that I had actually suggested. So if you would like to have a say in this, that is a very easy way to get to throw your hat in the ring. The reason why these polls are member only is actually mostly because previously, when I've done public polls, it feels like a lot of people vote on YouTube polls that don't actually care. Like, they just vote something so they can see what the result is. Or they vote on something like, oh, I think you should make this guide because it's my favorite job. I'm not going to watch your guide, but I like this job, so I want people to make content for this job. Which means that I'm prioritizing something that people that actually watch the videos don't care about. So the argument is, of course, that the members are those that care the most, possibly, potentially, maybe. So surely they will only vote on something that they would actually like to see. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. The main reason why the memberships became a thing was such that you can, if you want to support me in a way where you get a little bit something back. Instead of just using the super chat thing and then just getting to highlight a message or something like that. Just wanted to take a little moment to talk about that. I don't talk about this very often. Coco says, I have a question. Why is Zip so small? Because he's a Lalafell. Right. Simple question. Coco says, I also give Kai 20 liters of blood every month. No, you don't. Where do you put these? Should I be afraid of checking my mail? Anyway, for the rest of this week, over the next few days, Wednesday there's going to be a ninja starter guide remake. Like, I have ninja guides on the channel, but I have not actually had them updated for a while. The starter guide will now cover Endwalker specific stuff instead of being from Shadowbringers. The advanced guide will, in addition to covering what it already did, put a little bit more emphasis on things like the 2-minute burst and actually performing openers and planning your rotation and stuff like that. It already did that a lot, but now of course it's better. Friday we're taking a dive into the history of the Black Mage, which is very interesting. I think Black Mage might have been the hardest job ever at one point. So you might find that very interesting, especially if you're a Black Mage main. And then of course Saturday we get started on the Endwalker story on Rewind Replay, which is of course the weekly stream where we do main quest, or main scenario quest on an alt. And finally, Sunday morning, if you like Eureka authors, so deep dungeon stuff, I'm continuing the blind run with my friends, and you might be saying blind run, but the content has been out for like over a month by now. Yes, but none of us actually watch Deep Dungeon content and we don't do it outside of this group. So all 4 of us we've done the first 40 floors together on stream, and then everything beyond that is actually blind. So if you want to see me and 3 Free Company friends, including Sip, progress maybe further than floor 40, then Sunday noon-ish, like morning, noon, depending on where you are where you are in Europe. If you're anywhere else, it might be night or late afternoon. But I think that's that's everything I have, I think. I would also love to hear if you guys find out, like if you guys choose to do like solo content, like the way I've done it here, and you went ahead and did it on your own, I would love to hear like your results in the Discord, like, or maybe in the comments of the video, or even the previous stream if you did the dungeons in that one specifically. I would love to hear, like, did you manage to do something incredible? Like, I heard someone managed to, like, as I said, someone soloed, says Tasha, with Black Mage. So I'd love to hear it if you managed to do something wild. I would also love to hear it if you manage to beat Brayflox Longstop. So do be sure to let me know about it. I think it's very interesting. Thank you all so much for watching. And as I say, good morning, or afternoon, or good night, depending on where you are in the world. I normally start with good night. And thank you all so much for watching. And I hope to see you all very, very soon. Do you want to say goodbye, Coco? Good night.